I modded hardcore World of Warcraft so the entire game moves 3 times faster. My character is faster, enemies are faster, and every attack or spellcast happens almost instantly, which means surviving this challenge requires insane reaction time if I want to reach level 60 as a warrior. Last episode, my first attempt ended at level 8, but after restarting as an orc and learning engineering for emergency gadgets, Fastman 2 made it into the Barrens, where the challenge became way more dangerous. Every fight started feeling like life or death. So my objective for this episode is simple: survive the rest of the Barrens, which is easier said than done. So first, I went back to Orgrimmar to train some new abilities. After last episode's close calls, I came up with a theory. Since enemies attack me 3 times faster, abilities I would normally never use might be way stronger. So I learned Shield Block and Revenge for testing purposes. The catch is that both abilities require me to use a shield and defensive stance, which reduces the damage I take by 10%, but also lowers the damage I deal by 5%. After that, I did what any completely normal hardcore player would do and started over preparing like a maniac. My first aid was behind, my cooking was terrible, and if I wanted every possible survival advantage, I needed to fix that. So I went back to Durotar and slaughtered what felt like 100 boars for their meat. They might have gone extinct, but at least it was for a good cause, because my cooking level shot up pretty quickly. And that's when I discovered one of the strangest things I've ever seen in World of Warcraft: Scorpid Surprise. A cooking recipe you can buy in Razor Hill that I somehow never knew existed, that gives you food by cooking scorpion stingers. For whatever reason, I've never seen this cooking recipe in my life, but I feel like this might one-shot me. I don't know why. Healing you for 294, assuming you don't bite down on a poison sac. Like, I don't know what that is. So let me know in the comments if this food is actually dangerous. With cooking handled, I headed back to Ratchet. Spent some time fishing in floating debris pools, which dropped Rumsey Rum, an amazing stamina increasing buff. It's actually one of the best fishing buffs, and the reason I wanted to run fishing simply before this Rumsey Rum light. I also cleared out a few nearby pirates to reach level 17, and now it was time to test my shield based ability theory. I might go defensive stance. I haven't really tested out defensive stance at all. Oh my gosh. Revenge just did stupid damage. This is when I realized my shield theory might actually be correct. Revenge hits surprisingly hard because it scales with my attack power a lot, costs almost no rage, and is instant cast. The catch is I can only use it after I block, dodge, or parry an enemy attack on a 5-second cooldown. But because everything is moving 3 times faster, enemies are attacking me way more often, which means I'm getting way more chances to block, dodge, and parry. So that random shield I got all the way back in the orc starting area might have been one of the best things that could have happened to this run. And once I started committing to defensive stance, even more things started making sense. Taunt suddenly became a really useful range pull, letting me separate enemies without charging straight into danger. And then there was Shield Block. For 10 seconds, it increases my block chance and my block value by 100%. So against physical enemies, especially ones attacking 3 times faster, this ability is ridiculous. And it seems like the game wants me to stay in this build because I got a nice item drop on my way to level 18. Did I just get a green shield? Yes, I did. That is huge. Wow. Nice little skull on that shield too. I then headed into the Northern Barrens and started clearing more quests, including Sandflow Age, or whatever it's called. This sent me after a bunch of Venture Co enemies, which ended up being the perfect test for my new build. And after clearing through the area, I hit level 19. Then I fought Tinkerer Sniggles, which is an incredible name for a guy who shoots slow motion webs for some reason. Taking him down gave me the console key I needed to finish the questline, which rewarded me with another green shield upgrade. It's less armor, same block, and more health. Nice. But even though this build is ridiculously powerful, it had one obvious problem: magic damage. I can block claws, I can block a goblin trying to punch me in my face, but I cannot block a spell. If a caster starts blasting me at 3x speed, Shield Block and Revenge are way less reliable. So before pushing deeper into the most dangerous parts of the Barrens, I went back to Orgrimmar for one specific reason: engineering. Because if the warrior couldn't give me a real panic button, maybe my professions could. There was one specific item I wanted to craft: something that sounded almost too perfect for this challenge. But to make it, I smelted some ore, made some engineering parts I needed, and finally had enough to craft the target dummy. This is going to be extremely powerful for this challenge because it literally gives me a tank. I could drop it to distract enemies while I either ran away or tried to survive the fight. The only problem was that I have never actually used one of these before, so it could be completely useless, or it could save the entire run. Hopefully, I wouldn't have to test that anytime soon. And since I was already deep into engineering, I also crafted one of the profession's most famous items, the Flying Tiger Goggles. They took forever to make, but it gave me extra stamina, which means more health, and if I'm risking my life in the Barrens, I might as well do it with some nifty blue glasses. My next quest had me hunting sun-scale raptors for their feathers, which never made sense to me because they're literally dinosaurs, until today when I realized they actually have feathers on their arms, which is strange, but I guess it checks out. While pushing deeper into the zone, I hit level 20 from exploration, which gave me my next major talent, anger management. This generates 1 rage every 3 seconds, which is perfect for this build because more rage means more abilities to spam. After that, I reached Camp Taranjo, where I found a random Tauren with a warrior quest waiting for me, and somehow the reward was another green shield upgrade. This is a really good shield. I lose health, but I get strength. Okay. Before I completed it, I went into some good old-fashioned Barrens grinding. This time, I was fighting Quillboars in the Southern Barrens, and at first, they were manageable. They hit harder than the earlier enemies, but most of their damage was still physical, and that was the problem. I started getting comfortable, and for a moment, I forgot that this was still hardcore WoW moving 3 times faster. Ooh, that target dummy actually saved me. I almost died there. Oh my gosh, that target dummy saved me. It got all the enemy attention. So it's confirmed, the target dummy actually works, and without it, I would have most definitely died there for sure. From there, I kept grinding through the Barrens and eventually reached level 21, picking up yet another green shield along the way, which at this point was starting to feel ridiculous. I don't know if my game was listening to me or what, but it really wanted Fastman 2 to keep holding on a shield. After that close call, I also started thinking more seriously about where this build was going long term. Up to this point, I had mostly been using arms talents for damage, but this run was clearly turning into something much weirder. At level 22, after handing in a few more quests, I maxed out Impale, which increases the critical strike damage of my attacks by 20%. And the last arms talent I wanted to take before getting experimental was Deep Wounds, which makes my critical strikes bleed the target based on my weapon damage. After that, I kept pushing through more Barrens quests, fighting scorpions, maggots, and some giant pink overgrown lizard, hitting level 23 soon after, where I got a really clutch green chest piece upgrade from a quest with +6 stamina that was also kind of stylish. Okay, I got a nice purple vest on. Yay. I then hit level 24 by slaying a giraffe, which might have been the first time I've ever fought one of these enemies, and to my knowledge there isn't even a quest tied to it. After that, I headed back to Orgrimmar to upgrade my abilities and reset my talents, cleaning up anything I didn't need and maxing out everything important in arms. Now it was time to get experimental. I was done with arms for now, because most of the later talents didn't really fit my current setup, so my options were Fury or Protection, and after looking through both, Protection was my pick. It had obvious defensive talents, but also some unintentionally busted offensive ones for my build. And to keep leveling, I went back to the Barrens and fought through the dwarves at Bel Modone. These guys were mostly manageable, but the 4-men were scary because they could set me on fire, applying a magic damage over time effect that ticks 3 times faster because of my mod, exploiting my magic damage weakness. I eventually hit level 26 from quest Turn-In, which finally let me take my first real protection talent, Shield Specialization. On the surface, this looks like a basic passive. At max rank, it increases my block chance by 5%, but more importantly, every time I block, dodge, or parry, it gives me a 100% chance to generate 5 rage. And because enemies are attacking 3 times faster, those are happening constantly. I still don't know what this build is becoming because I'm basically creating it on the fly, but if this works, the warrior might go from one of the worst classes for the challenge to one of the most broken. I'll be testing that in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.